people are a little bit in shock and awe at the claim that the barely British corporation diversity chief has made by saying that Ildris Elba isn't black enough. Okay, now blackness is a spectrum, which I guess Ildris Elba doesn't find himself at the opposite end of. And the reason is that he doesn't have any black friends and doesn't eat any Caribbean food. Alright, so there's a standard on how to behave as a black enough person in society. Now, here's the thing. Like, I can make fun of this and I can say a couple of jokes, or I can actually explain to you the philosophy behind this madness, because you need a university education in order to say such dumb shit. Unfortunately, when I go for the philosophy and I explain to people how these individuals think, I don't get a lot of views. I get more views when I make fun of them. But this time, okay, I'm just going to explain to you the philosophy, because it's very important to understand how they think if you want to engage with people on forums. And then you can go to the root problem, you know exactly what they're saying, and you can vaccinate people against this madness. Because you're going to understand when you say it out loud without the academic jargon, and you actually say what they mean, it sounds really bad. And I even knew actual leftists that when I actually, like, look, so what your meaning is like this and this and that, and they started to think, and over the course of a couple of months, they stopped being stupid. So, what is a chief diversity officer? This is something that you need to think. And every single time you see leftists make a definition, you have to question whether you know or not what they mean. Because many times they will use a definition that you think you know what it means and you're being charitable, but in reality it means something else completely, and they're taking advantage of your innocence. So if you look at diversity officers or diversity chiefs, you would think that they are there to produce diversity. That's not the case. They are there to produce critical theorists. Diversity chiefs are people who have finished some grievance studies, women's studies, black studies, queer studies, it doesn't matter, right? And they now are being hired by a corporation to enforce critical theory within that company. This is why diversity officers do not increase diversity, but they do increase critical theorists at a corporation. That's their job. They're like the Inquisition of critical theory. Everyone needs to think like them, and they will hire other critical theorists. They would prefer a white person that is a critical theorist over a person that's a minority but is talking against critical theory, and I will explain why that is in a bit. But what's important to point out is that their sole purpose is to hire other people who think like them and to gain more money. So this is why the barely British corporation is going to spend around £100 million taken from the taxpayer money through licenses in order to give more money to these people. That's the grift. That's what they are. And if you think that they're there to increase diversity, you're wrong. All right? Like that is like a byproduct. That is like, if it happens, so be it, but it's not their main goal. So what is a critical theorist? Like, how do they view the world? A critical theorist is a person that needs to criticize a system in order to show why that system fails from reaching Marxist standards. In this case, if a system doesn't have, let's say, the exact number of black people that are in the general population, then the system is systemic racism because it fails to reach equity. And you now need to criticize that system over and over and over, regardless if the criticism is accurate or not, in order to destabilize the system, in order to make the system unable to function. So usually the system who wants to function again is like, okay, let's reach a compromise. How can I regain the ability to function properly? And the critical theorist is going to say, well, hire me, put me in charge, and I will fix it for you, right? Now, you need to understand something else about how these people think. They use postmodernist thought. Okay, now in postmodernism, they believe that reality holds the truth. So the truth exists. It's in the real world, but it's unobtainable by people like you and I. So here's what I mean. You may think that I'm using this laptop in order to read the news. The reality is that I'm using this laptop as a prop. Okay, right now the laptop is closed. Sometimes I use it to read the news, sometimes I don't. But your version of truth is that V is using a laptop to read the news. So the reality is what it is, but your interpretation of reality was false. Maybe some other person that has saw a previous segment of mine knows that I used it as a prop. So now it's his truth and your truth. So who gets to decide which is right? All right, like reality exists regardless of what you're saying. But there are two different versions or multiple versions of truth, right? So that's what the postmodernists think. The critical theorists believe that truth comes from culture. So it's more like a consensus. Like people gather around and they use various credible sources, various fact checkers that decide for the people what is true and what isn't true. And every single culture has these things. So when it comes to multiculturalism, you get the truth of a certain group of people and the truth of another group of people, which is why they claim that a white person cannot represent black people because they got like different types of truths. So only a black person can represent what black people are saying. And then you also have the belief that the reason, for example, in a country like America, you have people that vote the wrong way, that they don't vote left-leaning Democrat, is because they are being brainwashed by society through culture in order to vote against their interest. So every single group is going to have like these blue-pilled people, these brainwashed people that are not authentic. So if you have like a black person like Kanye West, yes, he is black, but he's not authentically black because he's a right-winger. So he is against his interests. He has been brainwashed. So you can't really put him in a position of power to speak on other black because he's not authentic. And this is exactly what this diversity officer is saying. She is saying that Ildris Elba, because he's not virtue signaling, because he's not promoting leftist causes, because of all the other things that he does not to further the critical theorist's goal, which is to promote other critical theorists, he is not authentically black. And in order to push this ideology even further, like they have the stereotype of what is black authenticity. And in this case, like this diversity lady is explaining, you need to eat the certain type of food, you need to have black friends. Like, you need to have the person fall into a stereotype to put it in a box in order for them to have like the authentic experience of what it is to be part of that marginalized group. If you don't have that, then the person isn't authentic. Now, funnily enough, this is literally what the Nazis taught. I mean, it's literally the same type of ideology when you hear Goebbels, for example, talk about that there is like the spirit of the German people. And you can have a German, right, that it has like the exact same genetics and the correct characteristics, but because he doesn't have the spirit of the German people, he's not German. That's Nazi propaganda, which now can be traced here. Now, what's funny enough is that they didn't start from this conclusion, right? They went down specific steps in order to arrive at this conclusion. Like they actually tried to go into the other direction, and one argument led to another, and another, and another, and another, and boom, you get to this point. And I'm not talking about horseshoe theory or anything like that. What I'm talking about, look, you can see it even today on the internet, right? You have the far leftists, the academics, that believe freedom and liberty leads to fascism. Why? Because people will make decisions. Oftentimes, people will make the wrong decisions. They're going to be brainwashed by the media, and they're going to eventually move society to a fascist dictatorship, right? So you need the help of the academics, the help of the woke, basically, to make sure that they purge the bad people from every space, from every walk of life, so you can't even hear their arguments in order for society not to be pushed to the right. On the other hand, and I see this on various forums and especially like internet geeks and what have you, arguing for the opposite. They're saying that society is now becoming illiberal, like liberalism has failed. Society is becoming illiberal, and unless you have a daddy figure, whether it is a monarchy, but I even see Catholics arguing for the Inquisition, or some far-right dictator like Pinochet or whatever. Unless you have that, you're going to get communism, right? But both of these groups fundamentally believe that liberty has failed, that freedom has failed. Freedom doesn't work, all right? Now, if you actually read some of the proponents of liberalism and the people who established this system to begin with, they say that this is a feature, not a bug. Like they say, freedom can exist as long as people advocate for freedom. The moment people stop advocating for freedom, c'est fini. That's it, the end. It's within the ideology. It's built, inherent within the ideology. You cannot have liberalism if people do not defend it. If people do not hold it as a value and it's just a written piece of paper, it's gone. Right? And the main issue with it, at least the way I see it, is that after the Cold War, people believe that liberalism has won. That it's so self-evident that you're not going to have racism coming back. You're not going to have these arguments that existed in the past making a return. So people went to sleep and no one bothered defending freedom anymore. You don't even see it in the papers. You're not going to read anything that promotes freedom or liberty as a value. You're going to see people promoting diversity as a value, promoting equity as a value, promoting equality as never freedom. Okay? Even tolerance doesn't get promoted anymore. Because that's not the goal. Huh? So now you understand how this really bizarre way of thinking came to be and why the BBC chief diversity officer is saying that someone is not stereotypically black. That's literally what she's saying, right? No, she wants stereotypes. That's what she wants. And for her, the stereotype is not the black person singing jazz music or the black philosopher. No. Like for her, it's not Thomas Sowell. No, that's not authentic. No, for her is the person that lives in the ghetto, in poverty, poor, oppressed by the system, right? That's what she wants. Doing the rap music, the blingy blingy, that's literally what she wants to encourage. So anyway, let me know what you think, and again, I'll make these type of philosophical videos only if people want to hear it. I understand the philosophy and I understand it for quite a while, but most people aren't interested in hearing about it. So, it's a lot more fun to just point the finger and go, tee-hee-hee, look what she's saying. But at least occasionally it's good to at least understand where they're coming from and how they rationalize it. Because when you tell it to people on the forum the way it is, like a lot of them will be like, oh my God, do I actually believe that? Like, yes, you do. Like, yeah, you do. And when you put it into words, it sounds bad. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you in the comment section. And as usual, as it's customary now, as it's traditional, right after the premiere, I will start my live stream. Link is into the pinned comment in the description, and I'll see you there. Like, if you click on it right now, if you click on it, you'll see me live. And we can talk there some more.